What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Punching Up. I am your host, Maya May. And if you've noticed, things have gotten super fascist, super quick. And there's a lot of Christians out here who seem to be behind everything that's happening right now. Like they're okay with it. There are polls coming out that show that most Republicans and white evangelicals are absolutely okay with seeing people's due process ignored and slammed to the ground and carted off to places like Alligator Alcatraz. It is confounding to me. It is confusing to me. And so I decided it was a time to bring back Jeremy Alder to the show. Now, if you don't know who Jeremy is, he is the content creator behind some really great series that I love, Christians Who Don't Suck. But he's also a stand-up comedian. And I just learned this right before the show. He was a preacher, not a pastor, and I learned the difference between those two things. So tonight's show, we're going to figure out what would Jesus really do in this moment and see if we can kind of convince folks to do that. Yeah, maybe we're going to proselytize on the show tonight. Maybe I'm going to come out of this show a preacher myself and try to convince people that Jesus wouldn't be doing a lot of the things that are happening right now. So would love to introduce you guys who haven't met him yet to Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, what's up?
Maya, what's up? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. We last spoke in December before. So back in December, I honestly still thought that maybe there was going to be some sort of Hail Mary and we were going to get a Democrat in the White House still. So I was still hoping. But how are you feeling back in December?
How was I feeling back in December?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I can hardly remember how I was feeling last week. Everything's happening so fast. But yeah, I feel like everything's going great,
It's
right?
super duper.
Is
It's
everybody
absolutely.
feeling relaxed and chill and happy with the direction of the country and the world right now?
Wow. Well, you've had a preview. Knew about this worldview growing up. So, just a little bit, if you
Yeah,
could share with people, because you're in North Carolina, right?
I am.
Um,
Hmm.
can you share a little bit about your upbringing in the Christian church and what was previewed for you?
Yeah, well, I live in North Carolina now, but I grew up in Texas where I was homeschooled by evangelical fundamentalists. And we were raised to be Christian culture warriors for Christ, win back the country for Christ. And so, we had a good dose of Rush Limbaugh, and kind of right wing talk radio was a big part of our education and upbringing. And so, yeah, I do feel like I feel like a lot of the like white evangelical fundamentalist fever dreams of the, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s are coming true.
So,
This is
for
what
you,
they wanted.
does it feel like a nightmare then for you that this what you broke away from in many ways is now your reality and everybody else's reality?
Yeah, it does feel like a nightmare. But I mean, it was my dream too, if I'm honest. I mean, when I
Okay.
was in that, this is overturning Roe v. Wade, strengthening the borders, all of
So
that
as a
stuff
kid,
was like, yeah.
you cared about the border. Like, what was it like as a kid thinking about the border?
I
What was
personally,
it?
as a kid, I didn't care, but I heard it all around me, especially growing
Okay.
up in South Texas. We were fairly close to the border, and there was just a lot of concern amongst white people. And I mean, even back then, it was all the stuff about immigrants are taking our jobs and all of that stuff, which you know isn't true now, and it wasn't true then. But as a kid, I just kind of took it all in as truth because these are the people that I look up to that are saying all this stuff. And it was all I knew. It was pretty
Right.
like a lot of, white evangelical homeschool kids. The information that was coming in was heavily controlled and curated, so I really only heard one perspective, about the world.
So when people started to speak up or started to speak out or started to recognize that maybe the teachings of Jesus didn't really mesh well with the whole kick thy neighbor out, what would happen if somebody did kind of raise their hand and challenge any of this, or did that just not happen at
Oh,
all?
when I was growing up, I
Yeah.
mean, I think they would have been pretty quickly dismissed as a liberal or worse, maybe apostate, probably possibly demon possessed,
Oh,
taken over by the devil, lost to the darkness. It's a very, we were taught to see things in very black and white, good and evil kind of terms. It was very either or. You were
mhm.
either on the right side and the moral side, the good side, the Christian side, or you were on the other side, and it wasn't like just a friendly disagreement between, equally valuable members of a democratic society, right? It was there is something fundamentally wrong with you. There is something spiritually and morally wrong if you don't see things the same way as right wing evangelical Republicans did. Right. So we see that kind of the way it's kind of played out politically now. There's just no room for negotiation. There's no room for a debate, even. It's just vanquish the evil, you know.
So it's incredibly chilling to hear it described that way because it does sound like, for lack of a better word, a cult in that way. And yet people are always saying, "Oh, you know, there's no hope for them. They're lost. This is who they are." And yet you evolved and decided that you had different beliefs. Can you talk about what that meant in your process, like how you were able to do that? And even though now things are supercharged, is it possible that there's even people right now who are maybe going through the same steps that you were going through?
Oh, absolutely there are. There's thousands of us. I mean, possibly, you know, I don't know how many evangelicals are in the United States, but there is a significant portion, particularly of the kind of millennial and Gen Z generations who are fundamentally rethinking the faith they were brought up in, and it's primarily because of uh, what we're seeing right now, just the abuse of power, the anti-LGBTQ stuff, the anti-immigrant stuff, all of the stuff that if you were raised and you really paid attention, um, feels like a complete betrayal of the kind of fundamental values of Jesus that we were raised with, right? And so I think a lot of us felt that tension growing up, and it has come to a head, and we're either abandoning white evangelicalism completely or just trying to rethink the whole thing, you know.
Well, in a way that kind of gives me a little bit of hope because maybe it means we've hit rock bottom with some of these things. Um, I'm thinking about Jesus and John Wayne in the book and your bit that you have about guns, and we actually have that clip. So I want to roll a little bit of that so we can laugh together, and then I want to talk
Guy
about it.
wearing a t-shirt that said, if Jesus had had a gun, he'd still be alive. And I thought, I don't think you finished that story. Surprise ending, kind of famous.
So when you do this kind of material, is it this feels like it could be considered blasphemy? I don't know. What are some of the reactions that you get from people who are kind of on the fence about whether it's okay to write this kind of material.
Yeah, I think the room usually gets pretty tense as people are wondering, oh, where is he going to go with this? Right. Anytime you're trying to do religious material, particularly in the South, which is where I mostly operate, and I do, you know, rooms that are full of conservatives. So um, it can get pretty tense, but usually, you know, I'll win them over uh, by the end. Once they see, you know, I'm coming at this as a sympathetic insider, right?
Mhm.
And so even when I'm being critical, I think of the church, most people can see that it's coming from a place of not. I'm not trying to ridicule or put down ordinary people, right?
Mhm.
I'm trying to just highlight the ways I think our faith has been corrupted and manipulated and used for pretty nefarious ends. So, uh,
Well,
yeah,
uh, yeah, and that's what's kind of the everything that's going on with the Epstein files and Trump, this man who has been exalted as the savior somehow, clearly in the Epstein files, trying to hide the fact that he is, even though everybody knows, including Pam Bondi, who informed him back in May. Is everything that's going on with the Epstein files also creating a fracture in the church as for people going, okay, this is a red line. Like, is there a red line?
that's a great question. I don't know. I don't feel like I have my finger on the pulse of conservative evangelicalism anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, you know, I will say it certainly seems like just from social media that there are people, including people that I know personally who voted for Trump, who are starting to question him in ways that they weren't willing to do before. I will also say, you know, I'm not super optimistic that this is going to ultimately hurt him that much with his base, only because conservative white evangelicals have um, a long history of finding ways to defend sexual predators, sexual abusers, and even pedophiles. So it's, you know, I wouldn't get our hopes too high that this does anything to his base ultimately, you know, but it is fun to see him squirm a little bit,
Yeah, the
you know.
flailing is nice.
And ideally, there would be some kind of greater justice for his victims, you know? I feel like that's where the attention needs to be right now. It's
Mhm.
too much of it is continues to be on Trump and Maxwell and it's let's the victims are still around, you know? Let's talk to them. Let's see what they have to say.
Well, and this in many ways feels like I don't want to say a microcosm because it is very macro, but a microcosm of what's going on in our society as a whole, which is women's bodies are just to be used as fodder for whatever men deem necessary, whether
Yeah.
that be as an incubator, literally for a child, or as a sex object. And I think a lot of people are seeing that for what it is. And it's creating, at least in my circles, a kind of, oh, if this isn't the red line, if this isn't the thing, like, oh, uh-oh, are we thoroughly fucked? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other line there could possibly be if there is one. I
yeah,
agree.
well,
If
it's,
this isn't it, where do you go? You
yeah.
know? Um,
No, it feels like a chance for better role models,
mhm.
which is why I love your series so much. Comedians, Christians who don't suck. What made you decide to put the series together?
Just this feeling that the loudest Christians in the room right now, the ones with the all the power right now, are just awful representations of at least what I believe Jesus was about. and feeling like there were so many Christians, current and historical, who have done such incredibly, um, beautiful and revolutionary things throughout history that actually help people, and particularly those at the bottom of society. And I wanted to highlight them. Um, I'm not trying to convert anybody or convince anybody that Christianity is right or even good. I just wanted to provide, mostly for other Christians, a kind of counter narrative to what we're seeing. Like, there is another way to do this, a better way, a more beautiful way, a more compelling way. And here's some people that have lived that, you know.
And I didn't expect Ozzy Osbourne to make it on
Well,
that
I didn't
list.
either. I didn't either. And I will say, like, not everybody that I list is a saint in every aspect of their life, but I think I want to highlight figures who I think a lot of people didn't realize had a fairly rich spiritual life. And Ozzy was a lifelong Anglican. He was baptized in the Church of England, never renounced it, and said, several times in several interviews that he considered himself a believer, and he would pray before shows. And I think a lot of his songs, I feel like War Pigs, in my opinion, is the greatest Christian rock song ever written. I mean, it's tremendous. It is the
So
gospel in a nutshell.
can you, because I wasn't not an Ozzy Osbourne fan, but I do remember the song. It was like, "No more war pigs have the power." Is that
Yeah.
song?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
it's all about the overthrow of the war machine and God's judgment upon the corrupt politicians, the warmongering generals, and it's a kind of vision of them finally getting their comeuppance. And it's not unlike Mary's Magnificat in the Gospel of Luke, where
I,
the
I
powerful
don't
and the
know what you're
rich.
talking about,
Okay, well, I
unfortunately, but
mean,
please enlighten me.
read your Bible, Maya. Come on.
I'm sorry. Every time I start to either have you or Timothy on the show, I'm like, okay, I need to get my Bible out, and I say this like I have a Bible. I need to go get
All right,
a
I'll
Bible.
send you one, Maya. Do I need to send you a Bible? I'll send you a Bible.
I actually kind of want you to send me a Bible now and just
Listen, next
highlight
time you're in a
like,
hotel, just open the drawer. There'll be a Gideon's Bible. Those are free to take. You can get one
I'm.
next.
Oh, you're allowed to take those Bibles? That's
Yeah, you
not
can take
stealing?
those.
Oh, see,
No,
I could.
they want
No,
you
you
to
can't
have
take
that.
them. Oh my God,
Yes,
I
you
could have
can.
been collecting when I was on the
You
road.
can.
You're telling me I could have been collecting Bibles
Yes,
this entire time.
absolutely.
Well, damn.
Absolutely.
I think I need a redo on my touring time and to grab those. So okay, so you're saying this song is like which part of the Bible?
Oh, there's a passage in Luke where it's the Virgin Mary and or Mary, I'll say the Virgin Mary, but she is kind of, basically it's this vision of God um, tearing the powerful down from their thrones and raising up the poor and the oppressed, in a
Oh,
nutshell, which is the gospel in the
I
nutshell,
like
right?
that.
And that is the vision of War Pigs. That is the animating vision of that song and some of other songs that Black Sabbath had. I mean, they were a very thoughtful and I think spiritually rich, group of songwriters. Not all of their songs, but a lot of them were, and they got accused of being Satanists a lot, which they always denied. And if you listen to the lyrics of their songs when they do sing about, you know, Satan or the devil, or they have a famous song, Mr. Crowley, which is about Aleister Crowley, who was the kind of like founder and leader of the satanic temple in America or whatever. And it wasn't praising him. That was the assumption, that all of the
Mm.
kind of pearl clutching, you know, gray-haired old ladies had in when they called him a Satanist, but it wasn't. It was actually pretty critical of the whole kind of satanic movement. So anyway, I just thought it was an interesting, I knew it would be kind of controversial, but I think it brings to light a part of Ozzy that I think a lot of people weren't aware of. And I
Would
do
you
think it's
go?
also pretty cool that his final concert 2 weeks before he died, it was a charity concert. It was he raised more money, and that kind of was like $190 million
Wow.
for children's hospitals and Parkinson's research, the largest grossing charity concert of all time.
Well, it sounds like he might be the Christian rocker that that
The
needs to
original
replace.
Christian rock star in my book. Maybe the only good one, actually.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, okay, I never really would have thought of this, and now I'm like, yes, okay, Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, the original. Yeah, I like that very much. Have people reached out to you about the series and just what their thoughts about it?
Yeah, a lot of people from all over the world. One of the funniest things I get is there's just a lot of messages of people saying, "Man, I hope you don't run out of people." I'm like, I'm
Oh,
like,
ye of little faith. See,
I know. I'm like,
that's from the Bible.
I think I've only done like 15, and you're worried that I'm going to run out of Christians who don't suck, which says a lot about kind of how people view Christianity right now. It's not great. But no, I get a lot of people who reach out and kind of suggest people or groups that I
I love
could
that.
profile in the series. And a lot of people who are just like, thank you for this. It's, it's really encouraging right now to be reminded that there are other better ways of being Christian than what we are seeing on the nightly news.
So, are you feeling in a way the series is a way? 'Cause you were a preacher, not a pastor, and thank you for explaining the difference to me. Do you feel in a way this creating the series is a way of reaching people the way a preacher would?
I guess maybe, I don't know. It's really just I think like I said, just a way to provide a counter narrative to what we're seeing. And if people find that inspiring or edifying, like they would a good sermon, great. I have no problem with that. But I'm not doing this to preach some particular message, you know.
Well,
Um,
and I don't even think of it as a bad thing. I mean, preach isn't a good thing because I watch them and I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. Perhaps I should read the Bible or find out more about these
oh
things.
yes, it's working. Okay.
Right, like they've sent you in as the secret weapon this whole time.
Right.
I mean, who knows? I wouldn't put it past them because they're out here doing crazy things. Since you have an insight into the Facebook pages and the Instagrams of people who did vote for Trump, how are people sort of reacting to everything right now? Like, are the people who are regretting it or regretting their vote? Um, is it is it because they're seeing things that are hurting people around them in particular, or is it just overall? Like, what's that kind of thing that's flicking the light on for them?
Hmm. I mean, I do think the Epstein thing has gotten some traction. It does seem like, as ICE moves, into people's neighborhoods and communities, and they're seeing their friends and neighbors, in some cases family members, whisked away by masked armed agents of the state. I think that's unsettling
Mhm.
for people, as it should be, right? And so, I think the way it's manifesting is more in a not a man, I wished I would have voted for Kamala, but more of like, man, this whole system is
Mm.
fucked, right? Like there are no good options. We need better options, And then I heard that a lot prior to the election from, I know people personally in my family and in the church who personally do not like Trump. They feel like
Mm,
he is an immoral person, but
mm.
they felt like the alternative was not any better. And he was offering something. He made them feel seen in a way that they hadn't felt before. And
But
so,
he
you know,
did he see their Christian side? Because it feels like the part of them that may have been seen wasn't necessarily the Christian part of the aspect of their life, but maybe the economic part of their life, or I don't want to
yeah, I
look
think
more
there's some of that.
nefarious parts.
I think
Yeah.
some of them did feel like he saw their Christian side in the sense that white evangelicals have had this narrative going back from when I was a kid that they are just constantly being persecuted. They're
Mm,
constantly under assault by the dominant culture, by the elite, and they feel that even when they're in power. And so when Trump gets up there and is like, "Hey, I'll be your protector. Hey,
mm,
I'm not going to allow people to discriminate against Christians anymore." That resonates with them, even though it's bullshit.
right.
It does, I think, it hits, you know. So, and they're not hearing anything like that from the other side, you know, and so
But yet, so like a sanctuary city, for example, we're hearing sanctuary. That word is a biblical word.
yes,
This idea that ICE can go into sanctuary cities and tear apart families, or go into churches, which used to be considered off limits. Like that was just like a bipartisan off limits. You don't go there. Somebody that is a safe space. Hospital safe space. So,
yeah.
did you ever think it would get to a point? Because to me, that felt like very much a red line. But did you ever think
Mm.
it would get to a point where they'd be like, "We're just going to go into the churches"?
I don't know that I thought about it. I will say I'm not surprised. It just feels like there's no line they're not willing to cross now, you know? It's shocking and sad. I wish there was more resistance from the churches. I will say I did an episode of Christians Who Don't Suck about the sanctuary movement in the 1980s, which was a collection of like 250 or so churches throughout the United States during the Reagan administration who were taking in asylum seekers from El Salvador and other Latin American countries that America was messing around with, and they were not being allowed into the United States, and there were churches who were helping them cross the border and then housing them in the churches to protect them from deportation. And so there is a history and a legacy of the churches standing up and taking the side of the oppressed and taking the side of the immigrants. And I wish that history was better known and that the church would take it up again. You know,
Do you think it's the media environment that has made it less likely for the church to want to get involved? Or is the fact that now it seems like if you try to get involved in LA, Bill Asaley is just basically making up charges for people. And so this is the opportunity for people to truly put their bodies on the line where they may get arrested. But do you think it's because it's far more dangerous now than it was perhaps in the 80s?
I don't know. It could be. I mean, I do think the media environment is tough because there's just so much misinformation and disinformation out there right now that even someone who wants to understand what's really going on, it's really hard to get a grasp on it, right? And it does feel like the stakes are getting higher. Um, and, you know, that's probably going to continue. But you know, it's not that there wasn't risk in the 80s when the churches did this. And, you know, I mean, that's part of, you know, Christian tradition is being willing to risk your life for, um, you know, for doing the right thing. Right. So we certainly saw it in the civil rights movement and we saw it in the sanctuary movement. And I think past time for something like that to rise up today. We'll see if it does. I mean, there are great organizations. There's a one here in North Carolina called Siembra, North Carolina, that has put together kind of an ice watch, coalition, and they have trained people to be on the lookout for ice, to ensure that people are aware of when ice is in the neighborhood, documenting what ice is doing, and that kind of thing. And they are putting their bodies on the line, and so that's encouraging and that's hopeful. That's not a particularly Christian movement, but I know there are a lot of Christians involved in that, and I think that's great. And I think we need more of that.
Well, I think it's great that you're being so vocal about all of this, because I think people look up to comedians in many ways. People look up to Stephen Colbert, and people understand that a comedian is a truth teller. So to be both comic and Christian, and to be able to highlight the strength and the power of Christians is so very important right now, because I think people are feeling so downtrodden. I feel like that constant trauma. I mean, yesterday I was on a plane and I got the alert about the tsunami, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "What end of days is this? What? Like, I'm looking around for locusts. I'm like, what is happening? Like, how much more can people take? It's just too much." And
I know.
I think your content is hopeful, and I think people need that so desperately right now. And I find when I post stuff, I get comments from people often that are like, what's, very pessimistic. Let's put it this way. Lots
Sure.
of pessimism. It's over. It's done. There's never going to be elections anymore. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, guys, we already know it's going to be hard.
We've
We
been
don't
here
need you to.
before, right? Yeah, and it's been, in some ways worse. So that's what gives me hope. Like, looking at history, just looking at American history, it's been real bad before, and there's been lots of reasons for people to give up hope, and they didn't, and thank God, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, seriously, and that, so it's on us now. I keep seeing millennials post that thing about like, oh, another crisis for millennials. I'm not a millennial, but I want to say to the millennials, hey guys, you aren't the only ones who have gone through crisis. I'm like, I think we're all dealing with, every single
sure,
generation has been dealing with all of the crises that have been happening. And
sure.
so thank you for highlighting the history of all of that. I hope people go out and find your series. Where can people find Christians who don't suck? And are you doing them weekly, or is it
Yeah, I'm
just
doing
kind
them
of
weekly. Yeah,
okay?
it's weekly. So that series is on Instagram at jeremy.alder. You can also go to my website, jeremyalder.com, and that has links to all my social media platforms and upcoming tour dates and stuff like that.
Okay. Where are you playing next? Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be in Williamsburg, Virginia this weekend, and then I will be in Bristol, Tennessee in a few
All right.
weeks.
I like it. You're keeping it. You're keeping it red. You're keeping it conservative. I love.
Hey, I'll play anywhere. I'm trying to make anybody laugh that'll come. So
So we met in North Carolina at the Asheville Comedy Festival, and I remember I played Lander University. It was supposed to be the day of the inauguration, actually, of the right after January 6th, and I was like, I don't know if I want to drive through rural South Carolina. Uh, to get to Lander, I was like, I'm very
yeah.
nervous about this. And even I've played conservative schools like in Missouri. I saw armadillos. I was like, if I see armadillos, I know racism isn't far away. Like I feel like armadillos are like the Confederate flag of the animal kingdom. Like, they're so cute though, but no, I see them. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm like, get me out of here. Well, thanks so much for coming by, Jeremy. You are, of course, welcome anytime here. I
Oh,
love
thank you,
getting,
Maya. This is always a great time.
yeah,
And
no, I
thank you
think
for the work
people,
you're doing. I let your show so great. We need more good media like this. So, and
you
you're,
can,
yeah.
Gonna keep on keeping on. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
what we're
Better
gonna.
to light one candle than curse the darkness, right?
Is that in
Yep,
the Bible?
that's
Is that
it.
in the Bible? That's in the
No,
Bible,
no,
or
no,
was
no,
that?
that's not in
Was
the
that
Bible.
MLK? Was that MLK?
No, 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 no. That was a nun that used to come
Mandela.
on. That was a nun on PBS.
I'm I'm just like shouting out all of them. I'm like Mother Teresa, Gandhi. Who said it? I was one of those good people. Um, I see. It's just so much fun to hang out with comedians. You see, I'm bringing more onto the show. Everybody's like, we want to talk about politics. I'm like, yeah, we'll talk about politics, but with comedians. That is what Punching Up is supposed to be. So,
Love it.
uh, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Maya.
Thanks, Jeremy. So go out and find Christians who don't suck. Not just Jeremy's series, but like everywhere. We need that inspiration because at some point we're going to have to figure out how to come together as a country and get through this. And we need hope. We need faith. And I apparently need to read the Bible because I don't know what any of the quotes are. And every time I have someone like Jeremy on the show, I'm like, I went to Catholic school. I don't remember anything except for Matthew. So that's it, guys. I just want you to stay optimistic and hopeful because that's all we got at this point. So please do that. And then we'll see you next week.